Hello and welcome back to Tim Talks. Today we are talking gazpacho. What you see before you are all of the ingredients you're going to need, except for some salt and pepper, for this delicious, authentic recipe for gazpacho that comes from Andalusia in Spain. Here what we have are about 4 pounds of the very last of the tomatoes from my garden. I'll be using some little red and some little yellow tomatoes here. Also we're going to need a half of a red onion, a couple of cloves of garlic to taste, of course. You're going to need 1 red and 1 green bell pepper, as well as a cucumber and some sherry vinegar and some delicious Spanish olive oil. I'm without a cameraman today, so I'm going to have to film it like this, and we'll be back with the rest of this recipe in just a moment. After washing our tomatoes, the next thing we need to do is to peel them. And in order to do that, we're going to boil them just a little bit. Right here I've got a pot of rapidly boiling water, as you can see, and I've got some tomatoes here in my straining ladle, which I'm going to carefully bring over to the pot, put them right on in there. We're going to give them 1 minute exactly in there, and that should be enough to loosen the skin so we can easily slip them off. I'll show you that in just a second. When we pull them out, what I do is I bring them over here to the sink and I put them in an ice bath. As you can see, where I've already got some tomatoes that are cooling off. We're going to leave them in there for about 10 minutes to make sure they cool completely and that we've stopped the cooking, so that what we end up with are peeled raw tomatoes. We'll be back to the next step in just a moment. To peel each tomato, I like to use a serrated edge paring knife, and you can see I've got my tomato. I'm going to cut the core out of it here. Loosen that and discard it. And you can see there's the blossom end as well. We're going to cut that off just to make it a little prettier. It's also going to make it a little easier to peel. And you see the peel, any black, undesirable things we find in the process, we're also just going to remove and set off here to the side. Here you can see the skin comes right off the tomato. You could never do this if you hadn't stuck it in a little boiling water for a few seconds. And there we go. There we have a peeled, very nicely peeled tomato. That's pretty small. I'm not even going to bother to chop it. Go on and just do one more so you can see again. Here's a yellow one. Just going to cut that core out, and then the peel, as you can see, comes right off the flesh. Yeah. There we go. I'm going to continue with this. I'm going to rinse my hands real quick here. I'm going to continue with this until I've peeled all the tomatoes, and then we'll be ready to put the soup together. Okay, here you can see I've already prepped the rest of the ingredients we've got here. I've also added about a half a cup of chopped parsley, always really great in any kind of Spanish dish, of course. And here you can see that I've got my peeled tomatoes, or at least some of them, in the blender, and I've got some of them reserved on the side. I've got a lot here, so this is going to take me at least 2 batches to do. All that's left for us to do here is simply to blend the ingredients together using a blender here. I've got, like I said, about half of my tomatoes here in the blender cup. I'm going to put about half the rest of the ingredients here. I've got just chunks of unpeeled cucumber. Remember, when you cut up a cucumber, that the ends are generally bitter. You want to cut up about a ½ inch of each end and just go ahead and toss that. I've got here, I've got 2 cloves of garlic that are chopped. I'm going to leave it a little bit on the board. Some red onion we're going to put in there. Again, I'm going to put about half. Some green pepper, some red pepper, a little of the parsley. And we're going to give that a whoosh. And let her rip. And check it out. Look at the beautiful red color. But actually, I thought it would be a little paler than this. But it's looking pretty good here. I've also got some water ready in case it's not thick enough, or thin enough rather, but I think that's going to be pretty good. I'm going to stop the blender for a moment, and as at every stage, I want to make sure that I season this properly. I'm going to put a little freshly ground pepper in here. Thinking about 1/4 teaspoon. Nice pinch of salt, maybe a little more than that. Got a lot of veg in there. We're going to want about 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. And about 1 tablespoon, more or less, some lovely aged sherry vinegar. That's really delicious. Give it another whoosh. And we're ready to do the next batch. I'm going to do that, and then I'll be right back. Here's a quick shot of the final product, all blended, and now I'm going to go and serve it, and I'll show you that in just a second. There, now we're ready for lunch. Here's our final dish, and there you have it. Thanks again for joining us today on Tim Talks. I hope you enjoyed this delicious Andalusian gazpacho. You know what? After you blend it up, you might want to chill it for a couple of hours. That'll really bring out all the flavors. It'll be delicious and refreshing, and it's lovely. Of course, you can serve it just like it is right now. Thanks again for watching us today on Tim Talks. We'll see you next time.